Coming in hot from Arizona, this is Trevor
and Troy Howard.
And you're on So Tell Us Time. You can have everything you want in your business. Sometimes you just need a little help.
Every business owner would love to charge more for their services, but sometimes you can sacrifice long-term loyalty for a short-term profit.
Creating the right rituals is key to your business having success.
Are you tired of competing with your competitors? Guess what? You don't have to compete if you create.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of So Tell Us Time. If you're on YouTube, you've already seen Cat's Out of the Bag. It's just me today, and I do apologize. As always, we know that we love Troy on the show. I love when Troy's on the show. He is a wealth of knowledge, but I promise I'm going to make it quick, and I'm going to make it really worth your time today. We're going to be talking about knowing your business. And we're going to talk about specifically one part of knowing your business, because you're like, Trevor, I know my business. I've been doing my business for 20 years. I'm super successful. That's awesome. And I agree with you. But here's the thing. Most people have a hard time with this. Most entrepreneurs have a hard time with this one aspect, this one area. And they live or die by it. And they question everything by it. And they determine if something works by it. And yet they don't actually understand it. And the one thing that I'm talking about is knowing your numbers. What? Yes, I know. I talk about this all the time. Troy talks about this all the time, but this is a specific part of knowing your numbers. So do not jump off. I promise you, this is a really important one, because here's what most people do. They're going to judge their marketing. They're going to judge these different avenues of potential revenue based on specific numbers. And usually what it looks like is I send $1 out, and how many of its friends does it bring back? So like I spend $1, I want 5 back, right? That's how most people look at their business. But the problem is a lot of companies, especially ones that have residual clients, right? Paying a monthly residual income, that's going to be at a lower dollar amount. And so it doesn't always work that when you say, I send out $1, it brings back 5. And you say, wait, Trevor, that's the only way that it can work. I understand. And I will get to that in just a second. But I'm telling you, it doesn't always work like that. So one thing is, if you have a product or a service that is a high ticket item and maybe a one-time customer, then it does work well for the measuring of, I sent out $1 and I wanted it to bring back 5 of its friends, right? Something like that. For instance, I'll give you an example. A restoration company. Let's say a dry out is on average worth, I'm just going to say $10,000 for a good sized dry out, okay? If you were to do an avenue of marketing like PPC, and it were to cost you $3,500 to acquire that customer, but you were able to bill $10,000, and then you still have expense, after that. And a lot of times people don't take into effect their expense on acquiring a customer. They don't add or factor that number in. But let's just take it dollar for dollar here. We spent $3,500 with like Google PPC, and we made $10,000. And it's a one-time dry out. You're not going to touch that customer ever again, most likely. That makes sense when you're saying, I send the money out and I need it to bring me back money immediately, because it's a one-time service. Where a lot of businesses get held up, a lot of service industry guys, when you have a smaller dollar amount and it's some sort of recurring. And when I say recurring, it could even be monthly, or it could be annually, it could be bi-monthly. There's different ways, but if you are servicing that same customer multiple times in a year and billing them for that, that is a recurring revenue customer. And a lot of times those numbers are quite a bit smaller, significantly smaller. They're not $10,000 jobs that you're then doing throughout the year multiple times. Now in the commercial, I get it, guys. There's lots of variations, right? There's a lot of caveats to this, but I'm talking about for a lot of my service industry guys, their ticket items are smaller dollar amounts, and so the problem with that is what people don't take into effect or into account is the lifetime value of the customer. So for my people who maybe it's only $120 to service a customer, but you're servicing that customer 4 times a year, hopefully, right? And we've talked about that in past podcasts. If you are like a carpet cleaner, then you need to go back and listen to our past podcasts where we talk about creating recurring revenue. So putting systems into place to help you make sure you get back to that customer, whatever it is, twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, whatever that is. So, in your respective businesses, take that knowledge, utilize it to make it make sense for your business. But I'm going to give you an example of like a pest control company, somebody who's charging $49 a month. They look at marketing and they have a hard time with it. Lower ticket items, those entrepreneurs always have a hard time with marketing. And here's why. They're looking at it dollar for dollar, meaning I spent, let's take that, same number of $3,500. I spent $3,500 and I acquired 22 new customers at $49 a customer. That month, I only recouped $1,000. And people immediately go, that doesn't work. This doesn't work. I can't do that, because they're failing to take in the lifetime value of the customer. You're servicing that customer every month. You're charging them, or actually in pest control, probably bi-monthly, but you're charging them monthly. So they're charging them $49 a month, servicing them every other month, so 6 months a year, but charging them 12 months a year. And then let's say their average lifetime value of that customer is 3 years. Well, that $3,500 that you only made $1,000 up front with is going to be worth close to $40,000 in business. And so what a lot of companies struggle with is that a lot of times you've got to put out the money to then make the short-term to make the long-term money. And so what it looks like is month 3, you break even on that customer, and then all the additional months are straight profit. But then you say, well, Trevor, that's only 3 more months of the year if I'm servicing them 6 months. Well, really, but you're charging them for 12. So I hope you guys are keeping up. My mind works really fast. But the point of it is, if you're not looking at the lifetime value of the customer, then you are missing the boat on what you're really making off of those marketing dollars spent. And a lot of times, so even a carpet cleaner, for instance, like let's say your average ticket is between, it's like $120 on the low end, okay, $120. But if you can get into that customer 4 times in a year, then you're talking over $500, right around $500 for that customer. And then if you keep that customer for, let's say, 3 or 5 years, what is that customer worth in total? So when you start to look at it this way, the numbers make sense. We're in the same boat as you. We sell low ticket items. We have a recurring revenue model. And so on the going back to the pest control, to kind of sum that one up, it's going to be month 3 where you break even, and then the rest of the months are bread and butter. It's profit, right? For the most part, I get it. You're going to say, well, I still have expenses. Yes. But for the most part, looking at marketing dollars spent versus money brought in, the rest of it past month 3 is worth money. And then you keep them for 3 years, money, 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 right? So that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people have a hard time with that. And then going back to us, we sell a lower ticket items as well. So it's like we have to float, depending on my sales reps' close rates, it could be anywhere from 3 months to 8 months before breaking even on a customer. But we're okay with that because we know the lifetime value of that customer. So for instance, I'm going to spend $22,000 minimum every single month on PPC. That's what I spend. So I'm spending like $250,000 a year. Now, if I were to look at it dollar for dollar and saying, hey, it takes 3 months to, break even on the best scenario and up to 8 months on the next scenario, People would look at me and go, you're crazy. But from that $250,000 lifetime value of those customers, over $1 million. Over $1 million made from the $250,000 that I'm going to spend to acquire those customers. So is that worth it? If I were to hand you $250,000 and you handed me back $1 million, I would say that's worth it all day long. So one thing that you guys have to do is you have to shift your mindsets. Because again, some of my customers, yes, they have higher ticket items. Restoration guys, roofing guys, you might be servicing a customer only one time. And so it makes a lot of sense. I get it. High ticket items, $10,000 plus. You're going to service that customer once. And then, maybe if you listened to our recurring revenue model, we actually talked about roofing companies specifically of how do you create a monthly or, annual fee or something like that where you're continuing to make money off of customers. Go back and listen to that one because it's worth it. Anytime you can make a customer for life, that's a big plus. But that's the thing is, for most of my listeners, a lot of you guys are, wearing all the hats. You're doing everything. You know it. You feel it. Money's tight. I get it. Trust me. We built our business off of our own backs. We've never taken a dime of investment. Although people try to invest in us literally monthly, we've never taken it because we want to own our company. I didn't spend the last 23 years of my life building something to then give it away to someone else, like work for somebody else. There's a whole bunch of horror stories behind that. So one thing though, that is one of the biggest things when Troy and I go in and do consulting for these smaller businesses or even for these businesses that are making, we go in and we do consulting for companies that are making millions a year. They're a lower ticket item. They have recurring revenue, but a lot of them aren't they're not saying, oh, well, I can justify spending $6,000 a month or $10,000 a month in my marketing because I know the lifetime value of the customer. They struggle with that. Even the guys that are making millions of dollars struggle with this. So I want everybody, all my listeners to understand, you're all in the same boat. A lot of you are in the same boat. So let's just kind of quickly recap. We're at 12, almost 13 minutes now, and I'm done. But one thing to look at, make sure, and this is the homework for the week too, go back and look at what is the lifetime value of a customer. Average lifetime value. Yes, you'll have some who leave quickly, some who stay forever, and everything in between. But you need to know your average lifetime value of your customer, because without the average lifetime value of the customer, for 90% of you out there, how can you create a marketing budget when you don't know that number? Because if you base it month for month, you are going to say nothing works. PPC doesn't work. SEO doesn't have a good enough return. Social media marketing sucks. And yeah, social media marketing sucks. They change their algorithm all the time. You're going to say content marketing, it takes too long. All of the things you're going to say, I've done it all. I've tried it all. I don't know how to make my money. I don't know how to grow my business. It's because you're looking at it incorrectly. You're not taking into account, what do I make off of that customer for a lifetime? Sure, I might have to float it, whatever that is, the 3 months, like in our business and in our a pest control company, for instance. You might be floating it for 3 months, but based on that, you're still going to make $40,000 if we're talking about the pest control company, right? So they made $1,000. They spent $3,500 to make $1,000 up front. But over time, the full life of it, they're going to make $40,000. They spent $3,500 to make $40,000. So trust me, again, I would do that all day long. All right, guys. So key for today, homework this week, go and figure out your lifetime value of your customer, and it will absolutely change the way that you see all the different avenues of marketing for you. And I promise you, it will help your business be a better business. It will help it grow. Knowing your numbers are so important. And it's like we like to say, if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a company, you have an expensive hobby because you're just floating in the wind, hoping that everything works out. You need to know your numbers in order to continue to be successful because it will catch up to you someday. All right, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. And we will check you guys out on the next episode of So Tell Us Time.